Howdy folks, Nathan Adlin here with the Fast Lane car, and behind me is the 2014 Mitsubishi Outlander. And as you can see, they've gone through a lot of trouble to make it look a little mopey and sad, but there is some really good stuff under the skin. Find out what it is after this. Ladies and gentlemen, there are two engines that are available for the 2014 Mitsubishi Outlander. The one that's in here is a 3-liter V6 that puts out 224 horsepower and 215 pound-feet of torque, and it's hooked up to a 6-speed automatic transmission and a all-wheel drive / 4-wheel drive system that you can control right next to the gear lever, and it works really well. There is a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine that puts out 166 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque. I don't recommend it. I think this thing is actually a little too big for that. The V6 as it stands, it's got enough guts. It does pretty well, and well, frankly, it's kind of boring. It likes to rev. Once you let it sit for a little bit, it'll actually let you go past 6,000 RPM to basically redline, which is around 65. So, I bet you're wondering about MPG. 23 miles per gallon combined. You can get up to 28 miles per gallon on the highway, and that's with the 6-speed automatic transmission. You do get a CVT with the 4-cylinder, and I believe that gets better gas mileage, but it's only, well, it's a CVT. Bottom line, it's decent. I'm getting just under 20 miles per gallon combined right now, but that's because we've been off-roading and I've been driving in a lot of streets. So overall, I think I could be averaging about what they say. Not a lot of underside cladding, unfortunately. I have it in low. I'm going to see if we can get over this rock here. Not really, so I'm going to have to go around it. Smell some burnt rubber though, that's always good. Alright, so we're going to go over this. Mitsubishi never said this was an off-roader. So being able to handle any of this trail is a couple steps above its ability. Now, with that said, we recently had a Nissan Rogue, which competes directly with this vehicle. The new Nissan Rogue has a 3rd-row seat option and is in a very similar price category as this vehicle. And you know what? The Nissan did really well on this trail. So far, point to Nissan. The most notable change for the 2014 Mitsubishi Outlander is the exterior design, which everything seems to kind of go down. Everything seems to kind of have a downward movement to it. So it's very opposite from the vehicle it replaces, which was up and kind of mean and kind of exciting. Unfortunately, that is what I consider to be the weakest point of this vehicle, and it goes from the rear to the front. Every single component that's here, that's outside, has a downward feel to it. So this is the tough part of the off-road section. And really, this is a challenge for vehicles like this, crossovers. And you know what? It's doing okay. Didn't lose any traction, unlike that first rock where it was not going to go up. That's pretty much its maximum ability. It just went up obstacles that are around 8 inches high, and it was able to get through it actually fairly unscathed. Yeah, okay, ran over a rock or two where you hear a little bit of a scratch, but for the most part, it did okay. So once again, that comes back to the vehicle that I think it competes directly against, and that's the new Nissan Rogue. It did the same exact thing, and it had the same type of character going over those rocks. The Nissan felt a little squishier, which for some people is nicer when you're off-road. The interior is a vast improvement over the old interior with the old Outlander. And with that being said, it's still not exactly what I would call high-end. Fortunately, there are soft touch materials where there weren't soft touch materials before, and it's higher quality all throughout. Okay, yeah, the wood doesn't look very real, and putting it in the places they put it in, frankly, kind of stands out because it's all dark in here and then boom, stands out. But at least the overall positioning of everything is logical, easy to reach, everything feels like it's decent quality. There is an issue though. The seat, if you're a big guy like me or even bigger, it's not the most comfortable seat out there. It doesn't adjust that much, and frankly, it feels like the cushion is a little short on the legs. But overall, as a regular everyday driver, it's been very comfortable, very smooth, and its ride on the highway is top notch. So sometimes we don't realize what we're doing when we're driving, how much distance we get off the ground. And this is easily a foot off the ground, and it kind of shows you articulation or lack thereof. And a lot of crossovers have the same issue. If this were a Jeep or another vehicle with the proper amount of articulation, I don't think the wheel will be off the ground at all. But this is what happens when you take a crossover off-road. So now we're going to go down, and there is no hill descent control. There are these lovely little paddle shifters, which make no sense to me on a lot of these types of vehicles. But it's, yeah. Seems to be working all right, just with the brake. I can actually tell you, the articulation isn't as good on this as it is in the Nissan. And we recently took the XV Crosstrek, the Subaru, on this very same road and these same obstacles, and the Crosstrek just had no problem with it. And that was the hybrid, by the way. Yeah, so far so good. A little bit of a noise there, but yeah, so the articulation, not very good. Once again, you won't be taken on roads like this. But the traction's been really good on loose surfaces, so I'm willing to bet that on snow, this thing probably kicks ass. Especially because you have the setting, you can actually set it into the snow mode. So, you might be wondering why this is a larger vehicle than the one it replaces, and there are a couple reasons, but the main one is more interior space, more room, more usable room. They used to have an optional third row seat that popped up, and you had to put it together like origami. I mean, it literally had little parts that you had to unfold and everything else. It was really shaky and, well, not the most stable thing you'd want to put people into. So they came up with this, a regular third row seat, and it's not very big. There's enough room in here for little ones, but it does fold flat, and down here, you have to put these puppies up there in order to keep your rider safe. So at least there's enough room for that in here. And the thing is, this comes standard. So on the TFL scale of buy it, lease it, rent it, or forget it, I give this Outlander GT a lease it, and I'll tell you why. Because at $34,000, which is basically its as-tested price, you get a lot of vehicle for the money. It drives great, it's okay off-road, and it has the ability of holding more than you think it could. And my kids have been in this thing, they love it. It's easy to drive around, easy to park. It's right up there with the Nissan Rogue, I think. You would get to buy it, but I just can't get over the way it looks. Mitsubishi, seriously, you need to work on your styling. This thing looks sad, it looks like it's pouty. For the Fast Lane Car, this is Nathan Nadlin saying, don't forget to go to tflcar.com for news, views, and reviews. Adios.